Hi there, welcome to week 13 of a grid design every week. This week I'm going to build on a previous design we did. Remember the plover design? Well, this one's called ribbon play and it builds on that original plover design. So come on over to the machine and I'll show you how to do it. Alright, so I've just, this is a diagonal grid. You could do it on a diagonal or a horizontal vertical grid. It doesn't matter, whatever suits your purposes. I think this one looks a lot prettier with a kind of a flashy thread instead of one of those fine silk threads. So I'm using a variegated, variegated Fantastico thread from Superior. So let's look at this. Let me show you. I've started our line with just the simple plover design. Remember how we did that? And we had to go on the same side of the line every time. So let me continue that. And I'll show you. And then when the ribbon play comes into effect, it's a lot of fun. Alright, so I'm going to continue that plover design. Lock off the stitches. Oh boy, I lost my thread snips. I don't know where I put them. So I'll have to use scissors, which are so clunky. They drive me crazy. Alright, here we go. So we're going to continue our plover. And you'll notice I'm kind of keeping it small. I don't want it really curvy because when we come back and do our other sections, those are going to be curvy. So remember, if you get confused on plover, just look at the a parallel line so you can see which way to go. And I'm not done yet, so I'm going to keep this continuous. Until I hit a corner where I can't go anymore, then I'll go back. Keep going. You'll notice every time I stop at a corner, I mean doesn't come naturally to me to know which way to go all the time. So I stop and give it a little thought or look at a previous line just to make sure I'm doing my plover design the correct way. And the way my brain works is I tend to like to start it on the left side of the grid line, but maybe your brain is going to be a right side grid line, so it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. Okay, so we have hit this corner. Now, unless I travel, I can't do anything else. So I'm going to go back. Now is where the ribbon play comes into effect. So we're going to do exactly the same, but we're going to make it a big loopy ribbon. And if you just mimic that plover design, but make it bigger and more curvaceous, you're going to get a ribbon effect. And you want to cross that plover with your ribbon right where your original plover crossed the grid line. And you can see how easy and fun this one is. And notice how that variegated thread works really well with this design. I find that just single color threads don't make it nearly as pretty. I'll show you the back of one that I just had a solid color thread, and it just doesn't look that pretty. So for this one, I put the same variegated thread in the bobbin as I'm using on top. I like the backs of my quilts to look as pretty as the front, minus the piecing or applique. Okay, we've got a little line, a couple more lines to do. So back to our original plover. Remember, make that kind of small because your ribbons are gonna make it bigger. And we're to a corner where we can't go any further. So coming back down the line with our ribbon play. So see, we're crossing the intersections with our ribbons. And that gives you that twisty ribbon effect. And that is it. That was quick. Let's take it out and have a look at it. As much as I do to try to prepare and get everything where it's supposed to be, my little snips aren't here and it drives me crazy. I must have used them on my sewing table. Those makes quilting a lot easier. Okay, so here we go. Here's our ribbon play on front. Of course, the blue grid lines are distracting. So let's look at the back. And there it is. And see how pretty that is with that variegated thread. And this can be done on any size of a grid, horizontal, vertical, diagonal. I've even done it on a triangle grid and a diamond grid, and it just looks beautiful. Just bear in mind that that variegated thread makes it so much prettier. So that is it for week 13 ribbon play. Hope you enjoyed that. That's a fun one. So go practice. Get your pre-marked grid panels out that you've gotten from my website. They're still available if you need some. And remember, those grid lines will wash out of those pre-marked panels. If you're like me and you don't like to have a bunch of samples around, I think a fun thing to do with those grid panels is put a different colored backing on them, something you like, and when it's all said and done with your grid panel and you filled it up, you can make that into some little item like an iPad cover or something. So it doesn't just have to be a sample sitting on your sewing table. I hate having tons of samples around. I like to actually do something with my practice pieces. So try that. Check out the pre-marked panels at quintessentialquilting.com and other things. And hope you like that. So we'll see you next week for another grid-based quilting design.